like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Lawyer Henderson TV. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that thumbs up button. All right. If you're on Instagram, go ahead and like the page. Go ahead and like the video. I'm sorry, not the page, the video. Go ahead and like the video. Come on into the circle. Come on into the circle. Let everybody know that we are going live here. We are live. Okay. And we have a good show for you tonight. And so let's we have a good show for you tonight. What's going on with my computer here? Hold on, guys. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, all right, all right. So we back on here. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that thumbs up button. Excuse me. And we're going to be in the building, ladies and gentlemen. The number, of course, to call in, if you would like, is 516-418-5867. 516-418-5867. And we are basically ready. Let's go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. We are ready. Let me see what we have here. We got, okay. Yeah, we're doing it. We are live. Okay. Lawyer Henderson show. Today we're talking about Kentucky U.S. Attorney General, U.S. Attorney, not Attorney General, I'm sorry. The U.S. Attorney out of Kentucky, Russell Coleman, and why he should be fired after he basically, listened to the police and the feds and said, "Oh, Grandmaster Jay had pointed a gun at us, and we were the witnesses." Really? Who was the witnesses besides the police? And we already know that the police do lie. They basically, Kentucky have a history of police officers lying, and also they have a history of all of those police officers going to the state and federal level, working for them. And if you look in their past and their background, you see where that lying continues all the way to the federal government. And so now you have U.S. Attorney Russell Coleman, who's out here talking about, "Oh, I'm going to be strong and tough, and we're going to arrest him. He was impeding and all this." Come on, that man didn't know that y'all were going to be, that your federal agents and these police officers, y'all were spying on him about, and basically he didn't know who y'all were up there on that roof. So this is a weak case, but if you look at the history of what, white supremacists always try to do, they're working with the police. We know that. But we're going to get into the topic of the charges against Grandmaster Jay, also known as John Johnson, John Fitzgerald. As you know, he's been arrested by the feds almost, 3 months, 3 months after this alleged incident happened in September at a protest, I think, for Breonna Taylor. Let's get into talking about it. Also, Tariq Nasheed, you called this man you called him an agent. Tariq, I don't know about this one, buddy. The Lawyer Henderson show's live. 516-418 5867 516-418-5867. We're talking about Kentucky US Attorney Russell Coleman and why I believe as an activist he should be fired after some police officers or FBI and Secret Service people claim that he had pointed a gun up at them as if he knew that they were up there spying on him. He actually detected, in my opinion, basically that they were there and they were trying to monitor his organization. They were there trying to monitor his organization. And since he had caught them spying on him or monitoring his organization, now they come out 3 months later and say, "Oh, we're going to arrest you for, pointing your gun and flashlight at us." Okay. But we're going to talk about that. So they got him in this picture, and we're going to go over his charges here in just a moment. It's weak bullshit charges, but we're going to go over that today. Y'all hit that thumbs up button. Call in at 516-418-5867. The charges against him is very weak. So what the FBI do, they do certain things that's different from they do a lot of things different. We're going to just go ahead and get into this. Typically, I talk about other issues. Also, rapper Casanova, he was also arrested. So the FBI has been very busy going after black men again. Okay, they want us to take, they want you to take this narrative off that all these white men are out here, toting guns, branding their, branding their guns over here, white militia groups out here. One of them, remember, just, was about to kidnap the governor of Michigan. And so we have a lot of this going on where the FBI is single-handedly only going after black folks. And we have seen this, okay? Even Trump called out the FBI and said that it was not a good organization. But if you have a white supremacist calling out an organization of white supremacists, that basically just sums it up right now. But anyway, the freedom of speech gives us a right to basically criticize, of course, and we have Instagram messing with my live. It's all good, but also, like I said, rapper Casanova, along with his group, had to turn themselves in, and we'll basically get to that also. But we want to speak out against the charges um, against our brother here. Now, Tariq came out some months ago and said that this man was an agent, that the not effing around leader, Grandmaster Jay, also known as John F. Johnson, is an agent, that they saw him being security at a Trump rally. Okay. Now, if I looked at that picture. I mean, not the picture, but the video, and it looked like him. But then again, I can't say if for sure if that was him. But you have Tariq and other people saying it was him, being security at the Trump rally. I think basically that they had hired him to do some security, to make sure that the protesters don't get out of line. If that's true, we don't know. So, but we're kind of shaky as around here in the black community grassroots. We're really shaking up. Our sister Minchie X, she is very on edge because she really support this man. I do too. Basically, when Tariq Nasheed called him out, even though I'm a great fan of Tariq, I had to disagree with Tariq on this one. I'm like, okay, wait a minute, Tariq, you got to slow down. You got to really slow down here. Let's go over. Let's go over to what the news media has said about our brother. Before we get into that, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button, and then I'm going to show you, and I'm going to tell you why this criminal complaint, because it's not an indictment, it's a criminal complaint. I'm going to show you why that, you know, when you have a zealous prosecutor. Now, I dealt with a zealous prosecutor on the state level as well, but they are very, very, very different on the federal level. You don't want to be, because of COVID-19, ladies and gentlemen, you don't want to be in jail right now, because the process, if you think regular court is slow, you have not seen anything. So this is not the time to be going to jail, because they got a lot of stuff, locked down because of COVID-19. And you got just basically, you know, pointing his gun at what he thought was white militia groups trying to assassinate him. And you got the U.S. attorney out here trying to say that he basically tried to aim his weapon at the Secret Service men or LMPD officers, FBI agents, or what have you. And he didn't know that these people were a part of law enforcement. See, what they did not want basically for him to recognize is that they were up on the top of the roof. Now, there was a claim that they actually called him and said that they would be there, which was it was kind of weird that they would call him and say, "Hey, we're going to be at y'all protest, and don't be pointing no gun at us." Okay, that's kind of strange, but I'm not saying that happened, but I am saying that they did basically get a call, or said that they called the man and told him that they would be there. So this is the problem with. We're going to go into read the article, and then we're going to break down the charges. These charges are not, like I said, they're not stickable. So what the government is going to try to do, as they often do on federal court cases, is they try to hold you so much without a bond. Now, this is different from Kyle Rittenhouse. I think Kyle Rittenhouse was basically brought up on state charges, which is fundamentally different in federal cases. But now, since they basically have used um, these charges against him, in which we're going to get to a little bit later, and we're going to also get into what U.S. Kentucky State Attorney Russell Coleman basically used a Title 18. I think is a Title 18 or 118 Section B of this law in Kentucky to try to, I think that's the law where he tried to, I had a hard time at first finding the law because it was very, very hard to find. And so that's what they do. They find rules and laws when they want to take you down. And it's always rules and laws until which the government or the police or whoever charging you really don't meet the criteria. That happened to me before as well. And if I have enough time, I'll get into that as well. But what they'll do is, because you are a black militia group and you're anything as white militia groups, you're basically teaching black folks about the use of guns, you're demonstrating things with guns. Here come the FBI, here come the state police, here come local authorities. They start targeting you, basically because they don't want black people to learn about certain types of things. And I think that John Fitzgerald, Grandmaster Jay, I think he was in the military before, I'm not sure. A lot of the things and the techniques that he learned, I think, came from his training. And so when you teach and educate black people on all that type of training, specifically that the same training that you are taught in the military, because in the military you've been taught and trained so viciously to do things to people in other nations that is so cruel as a person that comes over there as a Marine or a soldier and stuff like that. The ideal of their training is very detrimental when you come back on civilian land. So this is why our brother is a threat. He is teaching his followers certain types of military moves into which the government say, hey, you teaching civilians all these types of moves and stuff that we are teaching them in the military. Now, he has made some mistakes. That there has been a situation where one of his followers have accidentally shot themselves. Um, and basically, that's basically because somebody probably didn't know what they were doing as far as handling. So they probably shouldn't be out there with a weapon. But we're going to go ahead and read the article from the Complex News. And this is fair use disclaimer. We're reading this only to basically for our fair use rights to basically criticize or even interpret any type of media, especially the First Amendment rights, give us a right to do this. Although that our rights have always, of course, as Black people, have been denied by the system. Everything that worked for white people, of course, as you know, don't work for Black folks. You saw that in the Dred Scott decision. Okay, a Black man have no rights that a white man is bound to respect. This is still going on. And this is also where I want to come and talk about why U.S. State Attorney Russell Coleman basically, tried to pull this stunt, if you will, on our great leader NFAC Grandmaster Jay. Now they're wanting him not to have access to holding a gun. Okay, this is their this is what they don't want him to do because of his training, because of his leadership in the community. He's, like I said earlier, he's educating Black people as to how to take control of and protect themselves and utilize their Second Amendment right. I think is their Second Amendment right, um, basically, so that you can self-defense. Now, he has a self-defense claim. In fact, he has a lot of defenses he can use. Like I told you earlier, just like R. Kelly, the criminal complaint against them is very weak, and that's what they have to do to Black men. They have to railroad us because we basically are always most likely charged because of mistakes, and of course, our ignorant to the law. And that's how white men dressed up in these uniforms, the white supremacists, the enforcement arm of white supremacy, that's how they have been able to basically attack us and put us in jail using their laws, is because of our ignorance. And even if we understand the law, they still do the same thing. But we're going to go over the article. It says that not effing around coalition leader Grandmaster Jay arrested for allegedly pointing a gun at officers. The article reads that the leader of the Black militia known as the Not Effing Around Coalition was arrested on federal charges at his Ohio home on Thursday, WHAS 11 reports. John Fitzgerald Johnson, also known as Grandmaster Jay, is facing charges of assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers after alleging pointing his rifle at U.S. Secret Service and Louisville Metro Police Department officers during protests on September 4th. Okay, now why did the government wait so long? I tried to, a defense attorney, and there are some other people who tried to white explain these accusations. And in fact, like I said, the government case against him is very weak. And in fact, assaulting, he didn't assault any of them. He didn't say, hey, I'm going to shoot and kill y'all, whoever y'all is. He said nothing. He didn't resist because they was not in his presence. He didn't impede the officer because if in order for you to impede, you got to be blocking somebody. He didn't do none of those things. Okay? So these are charges. Okay? So what they're going to try to do is they can either bring this down to a misdemeanor, or he can get what is called a probable cause hearing, or they can basically take it to a grand jury. Okay. And therefore, what they're going to try to do when they take it to a grand jury, unlike they did in Breonna Taylor case against the police officers, they're going to try to say, y'all can get him on this, y'all can get him on that, y'all can get him on that, and blah, 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 blah. But he has to watch out as far as pleading guilty to a felony. He don't want to plead guilty here. He don't want to take a deal, in which they're going to try to do as well. What he has to do in this case is he has to say, let's go to trial. Let's go to trial. In fact, you have to get a good defense attorney. And for the jury, you got to break down that he did not assault a police officer and he did not resist. There's no police officers that he resists. He just looked up and thought that a white militia group was trying to kill him or was up there on the roof that he detected. Okay, that's a self-defense strategy. Why y'all on the roof spying at us? Who told y'all to show up at my protests? Okay, who told the police? And see, this is basically to ignore the fact that there has been a long history of a corruption with the Louisville Metro Police. They have been so corrupt. And so they're now trying to spin the wagon after State Attorney General Daniel Cameron was caught in so many lies that he manipulated Breonna Taylor's case. And then you had the Commonwealth, which is the district attorney, who did the same thing, who he tried to get Kenneth Walker to say that Breonna Taylor was complicit in her own death because she had a boyfriend or somebody where they were carrying drugs and other types of things, packages delivered to the house. He tried to basically lie, okay? And so having said all that, here comes U.S. Attorney Russell Coleman, which is the federal U.S. attorney, claiming, oh, we got enough evidence against Grandmaster Jay just because he pointed a gun into the sky. These are all baseless claims. If you look at the definition of assault, there's no evidence that he assaulted any police officer. You only got all police officers making this claim. Where is your witnesses? If you look at the photo, and I think I could show you the photo here in just a moment, but if you look at the photo, he got his back turned, and they cannot identify specifically is that if that was him. They all agree, no, it was him. It was him. Okay, it was him, but you're far away on top of the roof. How can you identify him? Okay, you see, so I'm going through just basically as a defense attorney. I'm basically knocking down all of their little charges here. And let me just tell you here, they have no evidence of assault. Like I said, they have no evidence of resisting. They have no evidence of impeding. They have no evidence that he did anything criminal. But basically, in self-defense, he let you know, or let them know, hey, I see y'all on the roof. Who is this? Is this a militia group? Because as you know, in Kentucky, and we'll get to that in a minute, that they have a history of having these white militia groups going all around talking about patrolling the streets. And we're going to get to that in a minute. Okay? So he didn't know that they were police officer. And then when he saw, okay, that these guys got gun, they might be from the squad, he put his gun down. So there was no threat. And then also, in addition to that, the man has no criminal record. You can't basically say he's a flight risk because he turned himself in. And then on top of that, U.S. Attorney Russell Coleman, you're talking about going after criminals. Well, why haven't you went after the criminals in the LMPD police department who has constantly have abused their power and corruption? You only went after a few of them. Why? Because you want to change the narrative. You were supposed to be investigating all of these corrupt cops who basically are in from the LMPD, the state police, all of these corrupt cops getting away with things. And then you were sworn in by Mitch McConnell, who said, what? Oh, we paid the price of our sins for slavery when we elected President Obama. And see, this is the dangers of why the people should be electing their own attorney general and not the president and not the anybody else who basically are in office. This is the reason why white supremacy have been very strategic, because it does not allow the people, you understand? It don't allow the people to elect its officers. in its politicians or its judges or its attorneys, especially the DA, the U.S. attorney, state attorney. I think is appointed by the president. So now you have an issue here of they're trying to deflect from the evidence. The article goes on to say that authorities claim that Jay pointed his his AR rifle at officers stationed on the rooftop above a protest in Louisville Jefferson Square Park. They claimed that when they went to look down on a gathering of less than 10 NFAC members at the protest, they were blinded by a light which they shortly thereafter determined was a flashlight mounted to the rifle. Oh, they determined that it was a flashlight. Oh, really? This protest happened in the daylight. Mhm. It happened in daylight, I think it was. Okay? So all of a sudden, you know, it can't be a shadow of any other type of light. It can't be a certain type of light that was on or at this park, or it can't be a light from a car or some other place. Oh, we just knew it came from his rifle. This is a nothing burger. Let's go ahead and read on. They claimed that, okay, they said they were blinded by the light, which is shortly thereafter determined was a flashlight mounted to the rifle. Okay, here we go. They're white splaining. The officers also alleged that none of the men on the ground appeared to afraid of them as probable cause in their complaint. That didn't make sense. Hold on. The officers also alleged that none of the men on the ground appeared afraid of them as probable cause in their complaint. Okay, they basically was not afraid of who. Oh, so you arrested them because they wasn't even afraid that y'all was on the building. That's exactly what the complaint is basically saying here. Oh, the white people with some badge and guns. We got to be very afraid. No, you basically must understand we got a right to carry and bear arms. Even if you police officers, basically they have been bending the laws and the Constitution, and white people, they like to white splain everything. He has a Second Amendment right to basically not only to say, hey, I can bear arms, I don't have a criminal record. He also have a right to self-defense. What are you talking about, Steve Coleman? I mean, Russell Coleman, you have no evidence. It goes on to say here that just because they were not afraid that these Secret Service and police was up there, ooh, that means that they are really a threat because they wasn't afraid. So in other words, when you see the police, you're supposed to be like, oh, no, let's not see. That's what he is. That why we arresting people now, Russell Coleman? You're gonna take this case to trial? Really? It goes on to say that they write that none of the men appeared to be alarmed or concerned about their safety upon seeing the police on the rooftop. So I'm not concerned that a group of police officers was up on the rooftop. I'm supposed to just, oh no, okay. I'm supposed to be butt dancing because y'all was up there, on the rooftop. This don't make sense. They're trying to white splain something, and this is what they have to do to black people. You don't have no evidence, so you have to come out and just basically just make up something and say that this is the law. Even within the law, Russell Coleman, you don't have all the criteria that he basically that you meet. He is supposed to basically to stand in your way. He's supposed to he's supposed to point a gun and make a threat. He's supposed to then impede you for not coming or movement. That's what the law is intended for it to be applied, not for somebody to just look and then they look up in the sky and they point a gun. That's a nothing burger. You have misapplied the law. And I don't understand how Trump can put you in office and basically for you to use this section in order to bring this black man down, just because you don't want him to basically teach his people how to organize and protest, and basically he's supposed to be intimidated when the police show up. That's crazy. That's not what the law says. The law says that he has to be standing in your way. He has to impede you. He has to point a gun and say, y'all got to get out of here and blah, 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 and threaten you. That's what the law is. Did you pay attention, Russell Coleman, in law school? Unfortunately, I don't think you did. The ideal here is that you all are going to hold him on a criminal complaint so that y'all can try to then get him to plead guilty or set a deal. And in the federal court system, they have a history of railroading black folks. Just look at the people who are in federal court who basically went through these chump charges in Kentucky, where there was no, basically you had no name. You'll see that they're basically it's innocent, and you got to get the innocent projects and all these other people to come in and help you out. There's no evidence that anything that you said within the law is basically it can stick. So you got to drop the charges against this man. Come on. There's no evidence. I mean, it's almost like now you're coming off as a overzealous prosecutor. And then Russell Coleman, we got you all on at your press release talking about Black Lives Matter, and we should basically do this and basically do that. And then on top of that, the media was there to ask you about your investigation with Breonna Taylor. You told them, Russell Coleman, that you can't speak on that. Let's go ahead and play U.S. Attorney Russell Coleman already trying to white explain, even in fact, Russell Coleman, that you basically was supposed to take over when Daniel Cameron failed to indict the officers. Russell Coleman, basically, when he failed to indict the officers, but all of a sudden you go and arrest Grandmaster Jay 3 months. Okay, and then you have evidence that these police officers violated the law, and the news media shows up, Russell Coleman, to ask you about what is your investigation into Breonna Taylor's case as the U.S. Attorney General, as the head officers of the federal government. And you basically said you're not going to take no questions. Well, let's go ahead and listen to Russell Coleman white explain his way as to why he can't, according to him, with the media saying, "Oh, we're not going to talk about Breonna Taylor's case here." Okay, okay, but see, you're talking this, trying to say this Black Lives Matter and all this stuff, and trying to take guns off the streets and all this old stuff, and basically you're trying to white explain stuff here. But here's Russell Coleman, man. Let's play it. Okay. So so now you got him talking about, oh, we had all these homicides in Kentucky. We know that the black community in almost every, of course, every state where you have less employment opportunities and stuff like that, we know that, of course, you have a lot of guns and stuff. But black people don't own these gun shops. Where's all the drugs and all the guns coming from, Russell Coleman? Okay, come on. You basically, oh, we're gonna basically do this. You come out here and say, oh, we're gonna, this is Black Lives Matter stuff. We're gonna help the black community. Blah blah blah. We're gonna be, do this, and we got law enforcement team. And now you can't. And now even before it was even time for the news media to ask you questions. Oh, we're not gonna talk about Breonna Taylor's case. Come on, man. Let's look at it more over here. Good. So you got Russell Coleman saying we're not going to be able to answer any questions on Breonna Taylor's case. Okay, he's already saying that. Okay, I know y'all in the media got questions and concern about the updates because now, as the white media knows, the grassroots want to know, well, what's going on within the government. Why is these officers on this? We basically know that the Daniel Cameron has dropped the ball. He was a failure. He's lying. He basically rigged the grand jury. So now they're trying to see what you're going to do about Breonna Taylor's case, Russell Coleman, and basically it was you quick to go after Grandmaster Jay, but then you basically it's taking you all this time to go after the officers who killed Breonna Taylor. You're not making sense. Let's go in and read the article on the US government website and let's try to break down these bogus charges that Russell Coleman is going to take. Like I said, you're going to take this to trial. Oh, he was toting a gun, he wasn't even afraid of us. These people weren't even afraid of us, and so now 3 months later, what we're going to come back and do, we're going to arrest them because y'all not afraid of when the police show up. Come on, man. Okay, so the website is here. It's the NFAC leader Grandmaster Jay charges with assaulting law enforcement officers, Louisville, Kentucky. John F. Johnson, aka Grandmaster Jay, have been charged via criminal complaint with assaulting federal task force officers, announced United States Attorney Russell Coleman. Here in Kentucky, we revere our First and Second Amendment freedoms, not foolishness which puts police and protesters at great risk, says U.S. Attorney Russell Coleman. Now, you had some white YouTuber try to explain and white-splain away as to why the First and Second Amendment work for white militia groups, but why it can't work for black militia groups. You had them trying to white-splain that. But all of a sudden, though, Attorney Russell Coleman, police officers are protesters now. There was no protesters, Russell Coleman, that he pointed his gun to. You basically said in a criminal complaint that it was only officers, Secret Service people that he didn't right to bear arms. What is your evidence? Okay, like I said, this is a criminal complaint. Like I said earlier, probable cause. He has a probable cause hearing, or he's gonna go to a grand jury. Okay. Now, it's good for him to have, like one defense attorney said, a probable cause hearing because the police officers who make these claims, they have to identify themselves. Okay? So I won't be surprised if the charges get dropped. But even if they go forward with this complaint, like I told you earlier, there's no evidence that they have against them. They don't even have enough to really indict him for jaywalking. So this is basically, oh, nigga, you're not out here, you're not supposed to be out here organizing black folks. You know, you better get that correct. You're not supposed to be training and teaching black people how to shoot their guns. You're not supposed to be. And so what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to use his YouTube videos against him. You understand? They're going to look at his YouTube videos. And I basically watched some of his YouTube videos, and he said nothing about killing any police officers or nothing like that. He said in self-defense, do not shoot at nobody unless they basically point the gun at you. That's basic self-defense. Russell Coleman. His videos is about helping and getting us to understand within the black community of how to basically use firearms, how to organize, because basically we do need our militia because we're up against white supremacists who are basically snatching us up. We have been found hung at parks, okay? And you don't have U.S. Attorney Russell Coleman going out there and talking to other federal attorneys and say, what is your state doing about the hanging of all these black people that the white militia groups are basically engaging in. You don't have no U.S. attorney like Russell Coleman having no press conference on that, do you? Of course not. Of course not. But these white militia groups gets to do a lot of things. Now, a lot of people don't know the history of Kentucky and their history of racism, their police officers' history of violence and corruption and abuse of power. And Russell Coleman was supposed to be investigating this. And all of a sudden, he basically seen a black man with a gun with a militia group. Oh, we're gonna stop and pause that, and let's go after him now, so that we can try to white explain that all of these white militia groups is popping up everywhere. And they basically, you had one in Oregon who took over a federal building, and basically they tried to white explain that. You didn't have the U.S. attorney down there saying we're going to go after the militia groups. You didn't have Coleman going after any of those other people or calling his federal U.S. attorneys of other states and say, hey, we got to crack down on these white militia groups. No. But instead, you got Russell Coleman trying to put charges on black people. And they're going to come out here and make a statement about Black Lives Matter and blah, 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 blah. Oh, but by the way, I can't tell you about any investigation into our investigation into Breonna Taylor. You had the Commonwealth Attorney of Kentucky lying his ass off, trying to basically get Kenneth Walker and his, I'm sorry, the ex-boyfriend of Breonna Taylor to say, oh, yeah, she did have these drugs and blah, blah, blah. And he wouldn't do that. He was caught in all kinds of lies. And then you have him still with his job. You got Daniel Cameron, the state attorney general, lying. And now you got Russell Coleman trying to deflect as the U.S. federal prosecutor. Well, what is going on in Kentucky? Well, we're going to look at what is going on in Kentucky with the history of Kentucky's racism and discrimination and allowing white supremacist groups to go and do whatever they want to in the streets of Kentucky. And you don't have the Commonwealth attorney, you don't have old bootlicking, butt dancing Daniel Cameron, you don't have Russell Coleman as the federal U.S. attorney going out there saying anything about them. Okay, but the article goes on to write that white wing, white militia groups. You see, he's hold on. Let me get this advertisement out the way because hold on. Here we go. Here we go. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that thumbs up button. Like and subscribe. Let's see, I'm sorry. Okay, let's close these ads. Okay, let's close these ads here because we don't want to basically spend money with no news media right now because they're trying to white explain things. Now, this was at the time that what they called the Derby. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. So you had a history of police officers in Louisville setting up teenagers. You had them basically engaging in all kinds of abuse of power. You know what I'm saying? You got a lot of things. Let's go ahead and read the article of police violence and abuse in in Louisville. Two former police officers in Louisville, Kentucky, are in prison. The mentorship program they used to sexually pursue minors is no longer operating. Months after their guilty pleas, though, the city residents still waiting for an honest accountability counting of the department's investigation into the officers' crimes. Okay? You had a history of this. And where is the state attorney general? Where is, you know, Russell Coleman? there it takes years when police officers are accused of crime, and specifically not only in Kentucky but in America in general. You see, when they do things, it's always about let's white explain this because we got to white explain what's going on with us because we didn't do anything wrong. We just had a few bad apples here and there, and it's going to calm down. And yeah, you see, they have to always white explain things. But you have U.S. Attorney Russell Coleman, who basically is going after this man simply because of just pointing a gun in the air. But the article by the feds goes on to say that Johnson 57, I'm sorry, the FBI respect the rights of individuals peacefully exercising their First Amendment rights, said FBI Louisville Division Special Agent in Charge Robert Brown. Our mission of protecting the American people and upholding the Constitution is a dual and simultaneously not contradictory. Yes, it is. Y'all have been contradictory throughout law enforcement. Hell, ever since we left slavery, y'all have been contradictory. Hell, your Constitution on the Dred Scott decision suggests that y'all been contradictory. At one point, it's all right to respect the rights of white men, but then in a separate ruling against the black man, you said that you have no rights that you're bound to respect. Okay, that's a contradictory of law. You're saying one thing that the Constitution is saying, and another thing which is different. You see, so they're trying to white explain things here. But it goes on to say that according to we are committed to investigating violent behavior. Again, no violent behavior at all. They were just basically upset because they wasn't scared that they were present on the roof. That's all this is about. You see, oh, y'all show up. As police officers, you got to respect us. And if you don't respect us and recognize that we're there, then, oh, we're going to bring up these charges against you. And this is all what this is all about. Accordingly, we committed to investigating violent behavior and those who are exploiting legitimate peaceful protests and engage in violations of federal law. Okay, well, basically, what did he not do that was was basically not peaceful? I don't understand what he did. Did he? I don't understand. Just let me know. It goes on to say that Johnson, 57, of Westchester, Ohio, was arrested at his home on December the 3rd, 2020. He appeared before a federal judge in Louisville this afternoon. According to the criminal complaint, here we go. This is where they're going to try to white explain things. Johnson forcibly assaulted, resisted, opposed, impeded, intimidated, and interfered with federally deputized task force officers while they were engaged in or on account of performance of official duties when Johnson aimed a rifle at them on September 4th, 2020 in Louisville, Kentucky. You dig? That right there, everything that this U.S. attorney said is a lie. He does not even have all of the elements of what the law said. It seems like somebody been sleeping in law school here. Okay? He don't even meet the evidence here. Johnson forcibly assaulted. Okay? Don't you know what you have to do in order to have this law really apply to you? You have to do what the white boys do when they go out and assault police officers and they get a drink of water. Okay, he has to then, of course, as you said, assault. He did not assault. He did not hit a police officer. He didn't resist because you wasn't trying to arrest him. He didn't oppose. He didn't block you. He didn't impede you. He didn't intimidate you, these officers, Russell Coleman. He didn't do none of that. You don't have no evidence here. But we already know what this is about. It's about deflection. It's about not going after the white militias who's out here actually doing things like the kidnapping of the governor of Michigan, okay, to get us off of Kyle Rittenhouse, who shot two men at a protest, and he gets a bond that basically had a GoFundMe raised and he's out of jail on bond. This is what we're talking about. There's a double standard here, U.S. Attorney Russell Coleman, into which you're basically is not being fair, and you're talking about something of this foolishness about you respect the rights of First Amendment, Second Amendment rights. No, and you don't see the NRA out here because every time that white boys want to do something, here come the NRA. We have a right to this. You saw the sheriff there. I think it was in Oregon. He was basically on the I'm sorry, the sheriff in Michigan, that small Michigan county, where they tried to kidnap the governor. The sheriff was like, yeah, they were trying to make an arrest against the governor. He was basically knew what they were about to do, and he didn't even stop them. Okay, so what kind of fairness that we have in the system? And you talk about there's no contradictory here, Russell Coleman. Yeah, right. Okay, you don't meet. There's no evidence here. You have none. It goes on to say that Johnson brandished an AR platform rifle at federal deputized task force officers for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the U.S. Secret Service, and the Louisville Metro Police Department officers. The task force officers were on the roof of the Jefferson County Grand Jury building, keeping watch on Jefferson Square Park, where there was armed protesters gathered. Now notice he didn't basically say that they were the armed protesters. Okay? You understand that? This is kind of flaky here. There were armed protesters gathered. In other words, they knew basically that Johnson and his group was there. Now, you may have, of course, the white militias, of course, who had their guns and stuff like that. But he basically did not say that they were there at the protest. He didn't recognize it. He said, they said in there, see, you got to understand, watch out the wording of this, okay? When you have people who basically are very skillful, like these judges and attorneys, they use words to basically to manipulate the people to try to set a narrative into which they basically have really claims here, and that's what they're doing here. This press release don't suggest that they were the ones who actually had basically organized the protests. And every time they organize the protests, and we as black people organize the protests, no one tells white folks to show up. No one tells the police to show up. They just show up. They want to be a part of everything that we do. Like they had the Million MAGA March. No one, look, copying off of us. They didn't tell no police officers to show up. The police came spying up on them. Basically, he thought it was a white militia group who tried to take him out. And he looked and see, and he saw that, okay, they were police officers, or they must be police officers. And he basically, said, okay, no problem. There, nothing that you describe in your complaint, Attorney Russell Coleman, U.S. Attorney, nothing he did in your complaint suggests that he did anything criminal. That's the reason why, in a sense, instead of you indicting him, this is just a criminal complaint where you're going to try to do the same thing that y'all did to R. Kelly. You're going to try to say, oh, look at, this happened, that happened. They try to do the same thing with Kenneth Walker and Breonna Taylor. They try to spin the narrative as you see, and then you have the white media coming out here trying to help to white explain the enforcement of the white supremacy. This is what they're doing here. There's no evidence, and these charges should be dismissed right now. And so, and speaking of that, I had called the sheriff's department, and I've also called he's been held at the Oldham County Detention Center, and I had called the sheriff's department, and the sheriff's department told me I had to call the marshal's office, in which the sheriff's department is trying to hurry up and hang up the phone, because basically they know that the marshal's office are not going to give you no information about who's in jail and who's in prison. They're more secretive. The federal government is more secretive. They do things very different. But when I called down there to the Omham or Oham, or how you said, county jail there in Kentucky, they did say that at 4 o'clock today he was supposed to have a hearing. Now, he already went before a federal judge, but now I guess this is supposed to be a probable cause hearing. But and they said that he basically do have an attorney, or in talks with attorney. Um, and you got Tariq Nasheed out there calling him an agent. I don't know. I don't see him as being an agent. I see him trying to basically teach black people self-defense. We need that, especially when, like I said, when we have these white supremacist groups going out here and we found black men and black women being hung. It's important for us to know about gun safety. Okay, this is what the NRA teaches all of us all the time. NRA comes out along with the Federal Order of Police, all these white organizations that basically come out and they try to then white explain as to why they should carry weapons, and they basically said they protected of these First and Second Amendment, right to assembly, right to free speech, right to bear arms, all of these things that the Constitution says. But then when a black person do it, oh, you niggas ain't supposed to be carrying all these AK, RK-47s, blah, 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 blah. We're going to put some chump charges on you. And this is what the U.S. attorney is about. Okay? Like I said, Mitch McConnell swiftly approved U.S. attorney Russell Coleman to this position. It's like, man, why did he confirm him this quick? And you see how Russell Coleman went straight to work. Oh, we're going to indict him. We're going to indict them. U.S. Attorney Russell Coleman, you're using your office to bully people. This is overzealous prosecution that you're engaging in. Slow down. You're taking your time in Breonna Taylor's case, Russell Coleman. You have not arrested these suspected white supremacists in her case. Why is this Cosgrove? Why is Hankerson and this other guy and these other people who basically even signed the warrant? Why has there not been why has they not been investigated? What's taking long? Okay, and I showed you the press release where he didn't even want to speak on that. He didn't want to speak on that, but he does a press release on the Grandmaster Jay. Okay, where's your press release on Cosgrove? Where's your press release on Hankerson that you basically are even investigating? How long is the investigation going to take? You had the Attorney General, of course, Daniel Cameron, who basically didn't present no, felony charges against the police. Those of y'all who are on Instagram, mind you have to come back to the live because it's only 9 minutes remaining. Instagram always do this to my live, so we will basically reconnect, okay? All right. So you have Daniel Cameron basically, remember, as the Kentucky Attorney General and the Commonwealth District Attorney, both of them was trying to come up with all kinds of ways as to why they shouldn't indict these police officers. And Louisville has a history of police corruption and violence. They have a history of abuse of power. Okay, let's go ahead and look at U.S. Attorney. The history of Kentucky extreme group. Here you have a white militia march through Louisville following Breonna Taylor's decision. The armed individual was identified as members of the National Patriotic Defense Team. Okay? A group of armed white militias were spotted patrolling the streets of Louisville, Kentucky, after the Attorney General announced the grand jury's decision in the Breonna Taylor's case. Footage suffered of individuals dressed in khaki pants, helmets, in bulletproof vests with rifles in their hands shortly after Attorney General Daniel Cameron indicted only one of the officers involved in the late EMT's death. Per a Fox affiliate, a group of men refused to name themselves, but later was identified as members of the National Patriotic Defense Team, a right-wing militant group based in Kentucky. Another right-wing militia group was reportedly gathered a few blocks away. The possible presence of armed white militias in Kentucky is eerily similar to the group recently seen amid the demonstration that followed Jacob Blake's brutal shooting. See, every time that we have, as black people, a protest, these white militias, they come out and they have police officers basically allowing them to do that. The same thing that they let Kyle Rittenhouse walk past them when he basically shot those two people. Okay, you have the police out there siding with the white supremacists. That's the reason why we don't trust this system. But the article from Revolt TV, I give them credit. This is our fair use claim here that go on to basically say that the article reads at one of the protests, Kenosha officers reportedly handed white militiamen water bottles and told them they appreciate them for being there. Kyle Rittenhouse also made headlines after he shot a group of protesters, killing two individuals and injuring a third. Earlier, September 23rd, former Detective Brett Henderson was charged with 3 counts of wanton endangerment. Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly and Detective Miles Cosgroves walked away with no charges as Attorney General Daniel Cameron said their shooting was justified. Okay? Ahead of the protest, the city of Louisville restricted access to downtown areas, especially in the areas that has been frequent sites for protests. We recognize that this is inconvenient and will cause difficulty for those that live, work, and have businesses downtown. We apologize for this inconvenience. However, public safety is our number one priority, and it will be irresponsible if we did not take preemptive active action to preserve it, the police department said at that time. The National Guard was also spotted around the Louisville area, the grand jury's upsetting decision. Okay? So you have them trying to white-splain, why you can't really, arrest these white militias in certain types of instances when they tout out guns and they basically do all that. Okay, another thing that he's going to be able to defense in which the white boys do. Okay, the right of their right to bear arms under the Second Amendment. Okay, I mean this man he has a lot of defenses here that white people have used to how this is going on, and this the U.S. Attorney General. I think he really should resign. I think his office, if he's going to take this to trial, to be fair, shouldn't we get a special prosecutor? And that prosecutor should have the right to drop these charges if he deemed fit. You don't see Russell Coleman reprimanding Daniel Cameron for lying under oath. You don't see him going after the Commonwealth attorney for his lie. You see? You don't see none of that. You don't see none of this. So I think that we can look at this whole issue here, and you're already on YouTube. Hit that like button. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. we are basically covering the arrest of Grandmaster Jay, whose real name is John Fitzgerald Johnson. He's been arrested on federal charges, in which I call chump charges, because there's no evidence that he impeded any officers. This is a nothing burger. Okay? Mhm. So the federal government has been very busy. They have been arresting. They have been arresting a lot of people. They've been very busy, and this is not the time, of course, for U.S. Black people to go to jail because of this COVID-19 situation. So they're having backlogs and stuff like that. Man, okay. But we're going to continue dealing with the John F. Johnson's arrest. We're going to continue to deal with the NFAC. I like the organization. In fact, when I had my Facebook page after they hacked my account, um, like I said, I basically did a picture, an article of them when they were at Stone Mountain because there was some white supremacists basically there, and they were trying to protect the black people there at Stone Mountain when these white supremacist groups showed up. So I do like the organization. I think they're very important. I think they should be more organized than the Black Panther Party. I think some of these people from the new Black Panther Party is a part of their group. I don't know. But let's go into deep. Also talking about the rapper Casanova. Okay, so again, fair use here. We're going to just try to critique this here. He was also arrested the same day that the Attorney General, I'm sorry, the U.S. Attorney Russell Coleman announced his criminal complaint against Grandmaster Jay. But they said here in New York that the rapper Casanova. Now remember, when these white supremacist groups, when they come up all around the country, what the FBI and the state police and all these other police agencies will do, they'll try to find some black people so that the news media can change the narrative. Oh, this is not just white people doing this. Look at black folks doing the same thing. So you have Russell Coleman out there doing that as well. This is what they all do. They all do this. Okay. Whenever they go after white people, black folks, you got to be very careful because they're coming after us next. Because this is what they try to do in order to get their militia pals and say, hey, you're only trying to indict some white folks. You're not indicting black people out there with all that black power stuff. And so that gives the leverage of people like Russell Coleman the legitimacy to just basically put chump charges on you. You have state attorney generals and district attorneys alike that does this. This is the propaganda because they basically are influenced by white militia groups. Well, let's go ahead and read about rapper Casanova. It said that he remains in federal custody Thursday after surrendering to law enforcement in a gang-related federal racketeering case. The New York City rapper, whose legal name is Caswell Sr., was charged in an indictment unsealed this week against 18 members of the untouchable Gorilla Stone Nation gang, which authorities says operated in New York City and other parts of New York State. Okay, the gang is charged with a litany of crimes, including the killing in September of the 15-year-old boy in Poughkeepsie and defrauding programs meant for people suffering economic hardships because of the pandemic. The charges stem in part from 6 wiretaps, including a gang, the prosecutor says. Casanova, who's 34, turned himself into the FBI late Wednesday. He pleaded not guilty Thursday to charges of conspiracy to commit racketeering, conspiracy to distribute controlled substance, and firearm possessions. He is not charged with killing the child. Members of the Gorilla Stone committed terrible acts of violence, traffic in narcotics, and even engaged in brazen fraud by exploiting benefit programs meant to provide assistance in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Audrey Strauss, the acting U.S. attorney in Manhattan, said in a news release this week. His defense attorney, James Casanova, said Casanova has been painted with a broad brush of conspiratorial conduct in his indictment short of specifics. See, same thing in the indictment of Grandmaster Jay, the defense attorney James Soros, basically hit it right on the head of that when and he didn't basically say this, but of course, with black people getting charged, you got to basically just charge and then say, well, this is a criminal complaint, even though that the law is specific, okay? And this is the same thing with rapper Casanova, even though that they basically said that he's accused of acts of violence. He's not been charged of that. So what they're going to try to do is go after him for trafficking narcotics. But what his defense attorney, James Soros, said was very important. He said, and I quote, painted with broad brush of conspiratorial conduct, an indictment short of specifics. Okay? You see, the federal government does not really give you real, true evidence of specific violations of the law because it's hard for them on the federal level. So what they do, but unlike they did in this Casanova situation, they actually indicted this rapper. But in Grandmaster Jay's case, it was a criminal complaint, which means that a criminal complaint could be dropped, okay, for the lack of evidence. But what they're going to try to do is try to see if they can cut him a deal. So they can cut him with a deal with if he does a felony or whatever, plead guilty or case dismissed. He do have, I think, a right to first offenders, um, violation. He's a first offender. He does not have a criminal record, so I think he's basically entitled to that as well because there's no criminal complaint. He's not a flight risk because he's shown that he has turned himself in, like I said earlier. So this is a nothing burger because he needs to be out of jail in order to fight um, these bogus claims against him brought by the U.S. Attorney General. These police officers, of course, the state and Secret Service, they've been busy because a lot of crime has been down because of COVID-19. So they have basically have not had really anything to do but to try to go out there and just bring up charges, aftermath. 3 months later, you wait. But anyway, one of the defense is going to ask them, of course, in their complaint, they're going to ask all of the officers, how do you know that this was actually Grandmaster Jay? Like I said, they're going to ask the defense counsel if he's real good. It's going to say, how do you know in that picture that was him? Somebody took a picture of him. Also, basically because they were on the roof and he had his back turned, you basically seen him, you can identify him, and all of the officers are going to just say yes. But they're basically, I'll be surprised because it's the officer's word against Grandmaster Jay. I won't be surprised if they just bring some white supremacist in and say, yeah, I saw him do that, or yeah, I saw him do that. And basically, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually get anybody coming from his organization to try to squill on him. That's something that the government also tries to do. If they can get somebody who basically, who may have done a crime within the organization, and they're looking at some years in jail, They could try to maneuver that person to say, yes, he did point the gun. Right now, this is just all these police officers. There's no witnesses, there's no evidence. Actually, the police officers are the witnesses, which is very dangerous considering that Louisville have a history of police officers and their attorney generals and the Commonwealth District Attorney lying because there's been evidence that even the attorney general and the county prosecutors have been lying in Louisville. And then with the history of police officers corruption, the history of hate crime, oh man, you don't think that the defense counsel have a great leverage on over here on these so-called charges that the U.S. attorney is trying to bring before him? That's the reason why this is not an indictment. That this is a criminal complaint. Okay, and basically, in a criminal complaint, it's just said, look, you did this, you did that, you did that. It's a criminal complaint. Okay, but where's the evidence of the okay? So when he gets indicted on probable cause, okay, let's bring all of these officers in and just try to explain to us how did you see him point the gun? How did you know that he had a flashlight on his ARK weapon? Okay, we're going to basically destroy the U.S. attorney's case here. We have all the information in the defense. This is going to be a great Johnny Cochran type thing here. We're going to have great. We're going to get this man a good defense attorney, and we're going to break down all the situations in which the government cannot prove that not only is he not a flight risk, but we're going to prove he's going to be able to prove in the indictment that none of the elements of the criminal complaint adds up. You got lying police officers who have a history of lying. He didn't know that they were police officers and FBI and federal agents because they were dressed like white militia groups. And then on top of that, you basically try to use. They had some white boy on there talking about, oh yeah, he was reckless and he don't know how to handle a gun and all that. There were certain members in his organization that basically made certain type of mistakes, and that's all. So they're gonna try to use his videos on YouTube against him. That's the same thing that they did to Dr. Umar Johnson. They tried to use his Breakfast Club video against him, and they knew that they had a weak case there as well. So they're going to try to do all of that. This basically is a nothing burger. But so that's the reason why I had called out Tariq Nasheed. I said, listen, I support you, my brother, but I don't think that you can call Grandmaster Jay an agent if he's looking at 20 years of his own life going to jail for something that we don't have white militias who basically do worse than that even get indicted on charges when the evidence is there. And so therefore we have to look at that. But we have to also look at LMPD's history of crimes and violence against its own citizens. We have to look at, see, the district attorney, like I said, from the Commonwealth of Kentucky, he keeps lying. You had him try to lie and and engage in a conspiracy to commit fraud, lying, but you don't have the U.S. attorney going after any of the district attorneys there in the state of Kentucky for for them lying and basically manipulating the grand jury. You don't have the U.S. attorney going after Daniel Cameron. You don't have him going after the Commonwealth district attorney for his conspiracy to basically obstruct justice when he basically knew that he didn't have no evidence in the complaint against Breonna Taylor's ex-boyfriend. So the defense attorney could have a field day. Whoever gets this case, they can have a field day with basically saying to the federal government, look, you have no evidence here. He did not impede you. How can he impede you when you were far away up on some building looking down and he didn't know who you was? See, this is what they're doing. They're just going after black people for making foolish mistakes. And this is what this is. He also, like I said, could be given a first offenders, dismissed case here. This is only just to basically try to basically get him to stop his videos on YouTube, try stop organizing black people to become gun owners. This is another way of basically intimidating the black community. And you see then how Russell Coleman, basically he had all this evidence against the police officers in the Breonna Taylor's case. He chose to ignore all of that evidence against these officers, and yet he claims that he has more evidence against Grandmaster Jay, in which he does not. Like I said, the U.S. code and the federal code. I hope he goes back to get some more research on what he learned in law school about how the charges could apply and stick. He does not have no evidence of impeding. He has no evidence of anything that can bring Grandmaster Jay to trial at this point. And so this criminal complaint, because it's this week, should be dismissed. Okay? They don't want to go into the history of district attorneys in Kentucky line. They don't want to go into the history of you having state attorney general like Daniel Cameron, who's not did his job. And so basically, this is a nothing burger. This is basically to try to get the white media to remove us away from all of these white militia groups who has started because they're upset that Donald Trump had lost the election. All of them forming everywhere. Basically, you don't have no U.S. attorneys going after these militia groups. And if they do, they only go after one white person who might be poor and they know that they don't have no money, and trying to say, see, we've been fair. The Constitution works. The law works. No, the law only works for white people because they have the skin and the capability of getting off on crimes until which black people, of course, as you know, charges against us have been always have been enhanced. Now, and that comes to speak of this law in Kentucky that they bogusly and fraudulently charged him with, which they have what is called a enhanced penalty, which is applied to that specific law. Which then this is the reason why they said that he can get up to 20 years. Okay, but like I said, as a person with with no criminal record, Mr. Grandmaster Jay don't have a criminal record. I checked. He is not basically. He's a licensed gun owner. He's able to basically. He's not a flight risk, as I said, because he had turned himself in from Ohio. I think they called him and said that they have a warrant for his arrest. He basically went willfully. So he complied with the government so far in this complaint. I don't see any evidence. So what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to keep him in jail like they did R. Kelly, and try because they know that they don't have no evidence. So what they do, like I said, is they keep you in jail so that can basically remove you away from all the excitement that's actually going out in front of these white extremists who are actually really shooting and killing people down violently. And basically, when he finally go to trial, where's the evidence that they're going to present? It's going to be the same thing that they're going to try to do with Grandmaster Jay. Okay. Also, I want to also say that you're going to try to have a lot of these, like I said, in Oregon, a white supremacist group took over a federal building there. Okay. What about the officers in Kenosha who gave the white supremacist group some water? The police officers actually gave the white supremacist group some water and say, I'm glad you guys here. This is brotherhood. So do we have a relationship with police officers and white supremacist group in some of these states like Kentucky? Well, let's look at it. I know we're running out of time, but on the Lawyer Henderson show, you get it all down. Okay? You get it all down. And basically, this is a deflection. It is a host of a lot of complaints that does not go with the charges. It is a weak case here. Okay? The article from the federal government goes on to say, according to the complaint, the officers and task force officers advised that they were all perceived a threat from Johnson based on him aiming his rifle at them. All officers advised they were concerned Johnson might intentionally or even accidentally discharge a round at them. All officers recognized the distance between themselves and Johnson was well within the effective range of an AR platform-style rifle. Two of the officers advised that they were wearing their LMPD soft body armor with police semi-reflected placing identifying them the night of September 4th, 2020, known as the officers have drawn their handguns. Okay, now let's stop right there before we even complete the sentence. Okay, he had a flashlight looking up at you all, or a gun on his flashlight, whatever you said. Basically, he didn't know who y'all were. Okay, when he finally saw the, as you claim, your police semi-reflective gear, he removed his gun away. He did not even keep it there. We have white supremacist group, however, who gets in the police face with guns and knives. They weld it all the way into you, and you all use tasers on them, and you basically help to white explain his behavior by giving him a chance to get enroll into all these mental uh, organizations and programs where basically they're able to get out once they get this treatment. And so here we have an issue here of there's two types of criminal justice systems that we have in a country. One for white folks, the other one for black people. And of course, the U.S. attorney is trying to spin this as if the officer's words are basically a word that he can take. You know what I'm saying? Considering the fact, of course, that the police and LMPD have a history as far as he was investigating of abuse of power, obstruction of justice, all kinds of elements of engaging in criminal activity. You have them also basically, two of them just been arrested for sexual molestation of young boys and stuff like that, young girls, with this program, the school program. But anyway, they said that if he's convicted at trial, the statutory maximum sentence is 20 years in federal prison. Okay. So we have basically covered all of the boundaries of this case, and basically, uh, like I said, this is a nothing burger to wrap up these charges against our brother NFAC leader Grandmaster Jay. We don't see any real evidence here. We see that this criminal complaint is basically weak. It's not no specifics. It is nothing that basically they can even get to the door of a trial. And basically, as you know, the government sometimes on a federal level like to railroad things. So we'll see here. But that's been the Lawyer Henderson Show. I want to thank all of my guests on YouTube. I want to thank all of you on Instagram for your participation. And the Lawyer Henderson Show is always live. Join us tomorrow.